It seemed to us that we were going from house to house picking up numerous shells, and the Army tell us that they call this part of their work the milk run.
Yeah. These are 7 centimeters, so 7.7. And depending on the length, we know if it's toxic or no.
Yeah. Is the first one gas?
That's a possible gas.
Yeah.
The other two also.
Yeah.
So we have to put them through the RX installation to get sure
Yeah.
if it's a toxic shell or a high explosive shell.
Yeah.
And that was a shrapnel shell.
In the end, we only got to spend a few hours with the Army picking up these shells, and our truck was full before completing all the missions. It was time to return to the base.
Okay. No, it's we didn't choose the missions because it's the normal mission.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's not after the second place, you say, okay, we stop and we go home. It's not.
Good.
Okay. And now we go back to Weetschap.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't know the way, but we have GPS in the car.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing. Yeah.
The majority of the World War I shells which EOD battalion find are brought to the base here at Pokopel. The base is located in Holthurst Forest and is called Quartier Steinstraat, named after the place which is nearby where the Germans first used chemical weapons in World War I.
Speak English every country you go.
As the war was 90 years ago, you could mistakenly think that operations here would be winding down. However, to the contrary, the base has seen a significant investment by the Belgian government in recent years, which has involved expanding its grounds by acquiring neighbouring properties, and the investment in equipment and technology used in the detection, identification and dismantling of both high explosive and chemical shells. This investment went into full production in 1999.
Everything goes here. Yeah. That's where we make.
The Belgian Army does not have an estimate of how much longer the cleanup process will take, and as they are still finding constant 250 to 300 tonnes of ammunition a year, they feel that their work will continue for many decades to come. If at any point during this film you feel like you're seeing a lot of artillery shells, spare a thought for the Belgium's southern neighbour, France. The great nation of France every year cleans up between 58,000 and 85,000 tonnes of unexploded shells from World War I. The French estimate that they'll be cleaning up at this rate for the next 500 years.
No.
It's not uncommon to find shells lying on the side of the road here in Belgium. This one here, as we've learnt from the Army today, they can't tell until you've removed this outer shell to find out what's inside. Quite possibly this shell could contain a chemical cylinder filled up with a liquid chemical agent. The shells are brought here to the sorting facility for cleaning and external identification. The process sorts the shells into high explosive and suspect ammunition. The shells from World War I have laid in the mud for many years, and this mud has acted to preserve the shells as they are not in contact with the air, and as such, rust is usually limited to a small area around the surface of the shell. The first part of the process is to clean the shells so they can be identified with a view to dismantling them. All of the mud and any loose rust needs to be cleaned from the shell, which is easily said. However, when dealing with potentially dangerous weapons, this is done behind walls filled with 4 foot of blast-absorbing sand.
And here is, we're going to clean the shell, we're going to get rid of all the rust, so can we measure exactly the length of the shell. We can look for exterior characteristics like filling holes, anything that is possible. We also have to clean the shell if it's an explosive one, because it has to be nice contact with the one next to it, so we get an explosion by sympathy. Yeah, it's good, it's good. Okay. Well, he has more than cleaned enough now. He can identify the shell, and it's going either to the high explosive shells or to the toxic ones. Yeah, more butler. Okay.
The suspect ammunition must firstly be x-rayed to determine if it has a toxic component to it.
Is inside the cabinet. We have a camera view. On one side we see the X-ray source, on the other we see the flat panel detector. The only intervention from us now is to start the X-ray emission. To start them. We get a warning light and a sound, and then we're going to receive the image on the second monitor. There we have to work around a bit and working with screens, getting more and less kilovolts and milliampere, and see if we can get through the image. We can block the sides a bit. Because we get too high voltage, we move the screens as you see. But here we see clearly, this is the fuse pocket from the shell, and we see the liquid level. We see the straight line here. If we going to tilt the shell a bit, we will see that the liquid level, you see it start moving already, because we're working in real time. You see a bit shaking image, but as the liquid level is moved. Now we're going to measure the liquid level. We can do that on the screen because we work with absolute encoders. So we have to bring the level between the two lines. And once it's between the two lines, we can just click with the mouse and it will tell us how high the liquid level is from the bottom.
They are looking for two types of chemical weapons shell. One like this one, which has a liquid agent with a detonating device, and a high explosive shell which contains a bottle of liquid. This is known as a Clark type bomb. Here in the X-ray you can see the outline of the bottle inside. As there is no way of separating the toxic liquid from the high explosive content of these shells, the Belgian military have installed an ingenious piece of kit. Known as the Controlled Detonation Chamber, or also known as the T-60. Due to the dangerous nature of this facility, we were unable to witness this process in action firsthand. However, the EOD battalion has supplied us with these pictures of the facility. In the facility, the shells are covered with plastic explosive and hung inside the chamber. The shells are then detonated within a secure environment, and a system of active carbon filters removes the toxic agents from the chamber. These filters are then disposed of at a high temperature incinerator. For those shells containing just chemical agent, they then undergo a process called neutron activation analysis. This process is used to identify what types of liquid chemical agent are in the shell. Simply put, this process is the bombardment of the shell and its liquid agent with neutrons, which give a reaction which determines the content of the shell.